Hello there. Welcome to episode 166 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, as always, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you so much for being with me today. As I record this, it is Wednesday, March 25th, 2020, and I'm turning this around for publication in real time on Thursday, March 26th, 2020, and we are still right in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, which it really has been an interesting time for the wedding and event industry. This episode is titled How to Run Your Business Through an Economic Downturn, from 3 professionals who have done it and PR tips to keep you going. I specifically wanted to put this episode together. I essentially decided to do this on Monday, and as you're listening to it be published on Thursday, it happened in 3 days. I've been thinking about who is really the person that I want to listen to, that I want to learn from right now. And those are people who have been in the industry for many years, who have taken the industry and their businesses through many iterations, through many evolutions, and people who have seen economic downturn in this country and other countries and still have businesses and still have the same business. And in one of these stories you'll hear, 2 of these stories, you'll really hear how people pivoted during those downturn times. They started new companies, they started new services. It's really impressive. And I just wanted to get some guidance and some further encouragement and inspiration, again, from people who've just been in the industry longer than many of us and who can help guide us at this time. I really feel like we need that. So today on the show, I have Heather Dwight, who is the founder and lead planner at Kaluna Events, a wedding planning firm based in Boulder, Colorado. I have Meryl Snow, who is an event professional for over 28 years. You can find her at merylsnow.com. She has also been on the podcast before, as has Heather and Megan Ely. And Meryl is a sales expert. Now, listen, you guys, because I have 4 guests in one episode for you today, I'm not going to individually read the bios of every single guest, but I am putting the show notes for this episode are completely packed. I have put all of the resources mentioned in this episode on the show notes, including our guest bios, including their websites. Reach out to them, get in touch with them, get your questions answered. So I just wanted to mention that really quickly. So in addition to Meryl Snow, I have Terica, who is a 15-year veteran of the wedding industry as a wedding planner and also business educator for wedding pros. You can find her online at Cocktail Terica. That's Instagram. That's her B2B Instagram. And she is, of course, the founder of Cocktails and Details there in Georgia. And you can also find that on Instagram. But of course, all of these will be listed in the show notes. And then finally, to round us out, after each of these 3 pros that I just mentioned give us their top 3 tips for working our businesses through a recession, I am ending this episode with Megan Ely, the president and founder of OFD Consulting. She is a PR rep for event and wedding businesses and wedding business pros. And she is just going to talk to you about ways you can do your own PR, smart ways you can get your brand messaging out there, and you can strategically use PR to keep your business going, regardless if you're in an economic downturn or not. I hope you hear the hearts of all of these professionals, and it brings you inspiration. It brings you encouragement. It gives you the kind of that shot in the arm that you might need this week. If you're tired, I know you guys are tired. Everybody's working crazy hours. But we can't forget our businesses. We can't forget our businesses in the name of, being on the phone all day, in the name of communicating with clients and, just trying to keep it status quo and trying to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. We can do this. We're going to do it together. These pros are no different. They're here to help you. You're going to hear that in all of their voices and in all of their communication. So without further ado, we're going to start with Heather. Then we're going to go to Meryl. Then Terica is going to round us out as far as wedding pros, and Megan is going to bring up the end. She's at the end of the lineup there so that you can tie all of those strategies together with a nice bow and use Megan's PR strategies to help you expand your brand's message after you listen to these other 3 pros. Here we go. Heather, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Kinsey. I'm so honored once again to be with you and under different circumstances this time, but really excited to chat with you.
Likewise, I am thrilled to have you back to the podcast because I think in times like these, it's really important to hear from our I call them like the stalwarts of our industry, people who have taken the industry through many transformations, through many variations. And that's why I wanted to put this podcast out specifically with vendors who have taken their business through the last economic downturn. And I don't want to, I know it's not, I don't want to, play up too much that, oh my gosh, economic downturn. Again, you guys know at the beginning of the show, I said this is not really about fear mongering, but I think that was one of the last really huge transitions that the industry had seen, as opposed to, of course, we see differences in social media and marketing and all of that every single day. But I think one of those last big pivots that we made. And so it's so important to learn from our past and take the things that we did back then and implement them today if we need to, because there are some principles that just work every time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I started Kaluna in 2004, and then the recession was obviously 2008 to 2010. Mm-hmm. And so I was in the, very beginning stages of Kaluna, around the 5-year mark, and was doing well. And I think that this situation could be similar. I mean, there's a lot of similarities in that there's definitely the unknown. We don't know how long this is going to last. I think with the recession, we didn't know how long it was going to last. And I think that this has that same feeling. And as a planner, it's really difficult for me to just sit back and be like, but I want to, keep planning, and I want to keep, doing the things that are going to propel my business forward. And so some of the things that I just remember from then and what I'm sort of thinking about and talking with my team about is just, obviously taking this day by day and being adaptable. So, we don't know about, how these changes are really affecting businesses tomorrow, or weddings tomorrow, or events tomorrow. There's no one really can say that they're an expert on this, because we're all just navigating this together. So I'm hearing a lot of people just saying to be open-minded and to be kind and compassionate when dealing with, vendors and with clients, and empathetic. I think that, the other thing that I've been hearing too, and what we're trying to do is just, if you don't have business coming in, or your business has stalled or hit pause, which I think a lot of people are in those situations where their inquiries are, basically drying up, or their contracts are not getting returned because people are fearful of what's going to happen, is just to use this time as an opportunity to do those things for your business, like marketing and branding and getting your website, in a better position, your messaging more clear, your Instagram, things like that you always say, oh, if I had more time or more bandwidth to do this, or time to dedicate, now's the time to kind of sit down and tackle those projects that you've been putting off, so that when this does correct itself, you're in a position of, getting the clients, and then being able to handle those clients when they start coming through.
Yeah, I think that is such great advice. It's sort of that old adage, you have to slow down to speed up. And if you are in that slow down section of your business right now, you could really help propel yourself forward if you take Heather's advice and focus on those things. I love the way you put that. Focus on those things that you always say, I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. What a good gauge to determine what are those things that could actually help me right now, that I can actually focus on. I'm curious about your take on this, because it kind of directly relates to, again, you mentioned if we don't have any leads or contracts are being returned, that really relates to our revenue. And I know everyone is different, but I'm curious, with all of your experience in the industry as a planner and seeing the wedding from so many angles, what is your advice right now for people who are rescheduling and postponing their little hearts out, or some couples who are canceling? what is your advice to vendors for handling that from a revenue perspective? Because it can be challenging when you have couples who had a peak season day of your 2020 calendar and they just kind of want to flip flop to a peak season day of your calendar in 2021.
Yeah, and that's such a great question and something that we just have been talking about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really situational, and we're taking it as a case by case basis with
Mm-hmm.
our couples. Um, and I think as a vendor, you also have to look at, are you a solopreneur? Do you have a team? Do you have a bigger company with bigger overhead? Do you have freelancers? Because it's not just a one size fits all situation scenario for if someone reschedules to, fall of 2020 versus, summer of 2021 or even a prime date in 2021. I think the way that we're handling it right now is, realizing that this is not anybody's fault. It's not our fault. It's not our client's fault. And so those cancellation or postponement clauses in all of our contracts are just hard to kind of sit and, stick by from a legal perspective. You almost have to have like a human, compassionate perspective when you're entering into those conversations, whether it's with your client or the vendor. And we're just trying to understand from a planner perspective what each side of the scenario is wanting and needing. And we've had some people, even a week ago, have one position and in conversations change their position once they learned a little bit more on both sides. And I think that for us, what we're trying to do is try to move and postpone as many of our weddings as we can without charging our couples. And that's just a philosophy that Kaluna has taken. And it's not necessarily, I'm not advocating that for another business, because other businesses have fixed costs and overhead and materials and supplies. And like I said, freelancers that we may not have. I mean, I have a team. Where it gets tricky is if they are looking to postpone into 2021 and potentially change venue or change scope, design, or we're making massive changes in their vendor team that's requiring us to do additional work, then we're looking at some sort of change fee. But again, we're doing it in a case by case basis. We would rather the couple postpone to a date that we have available or work them into, whether a Saturday wedding's not available, maybe they slot into a Friday wedding because the venue can be more accommodating or the vendor team can be more accommodating. So I think that some of our vendors obviously are going to take a hit, and we certainly will with, booking out weddings into 2021 that we had essentially already planned for 2020 and having to work with those couples. But we're just trying at this point in time to do the compassionate thing and just be, as giving as we can be, in this situation. And, other vendors are, wanting to take care of their freelancers and wanting to take care of their staff so that they can be in business this fall or next year. And that is something that we're explaining to our clients, and they're understanding that as well. So I think where the charge is reasonable and fair, both sides, I think, can be understandable about those charges.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your insight on that. When you look back to, being in almost 5 years at Kaluna and everything going well, and then all of a sudden 2008 to 2010 hits, what are some of the things that you did during that time that you think helped, pull you through 2010 to be able to continue? And, today in 2020, you still have that same business.
Yeah, I think that one of the things I remember doing was just being a little bit more flexible and adaptable, on my pricing. And I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case going into this. I'm not suggesting people discount. I don't want to, I think people our industry has worked so hard to get to where we are now, to be charging what we're charging and feeling like we're worth what we charge. But I think that we don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know how our clients' personal lives are going to be impacted by this, whether they are losing their jobs or they're personally impacted in their industry, or whether or not their family members are impacted or can travel. And so what I think helped in the recession was people were losing money. It was more economic. It was more hard hit, and especially for our couple's parents who were sometimes paying for the wedding, or the couples themselves. There was a lot of talk about budget and just like not spending what they wanted to spend, and it lingered with us, I think, for even years after that, and it corrected itself to the point of every time we had a conversation, it wasn't circled around, well, what does this line item mean, and what am I paying for here? And so I think just understanding that we may have a little bit of that happen again. I mean, hopefully not. This might correct itself faster, and people might be in a position to be celebrating and spending money. But I think that the companies that can have those conversations and not immediately go to like, oh yes, I'll give you money off, but just having those conversations. What is your circumstances and why are you postponing, or what is your motivation for this? Just like you would with any other client. The flip side of it, what I'm also hearing is that we're going to come out of this really quickly, and people are going to be trying to book dates for this fall that are already getting booked up from our postponements, and 2021 is going to be packed. So I think that you may see vendors sticking with their pricing, and also maybe even charging a premium because they're in such high demand. So I think that that's another lesson from the recession, is if you can make it through this and there's a demand for your services, then you'll probably end up doing well, because weddings have traditionally been recession proof because people want to get married. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how much they're willing to spend, on their wedding when something like this happens.
Mm-hmm. And, if, as you're saying, you were flexible in your pricing, just, having those discussions, not that you were not getting paid what you were worth, but also, in those years when you had to be flexible, you could come up with options that were more convenient to those clients. And I think, some of us, and, I think for myself at my venue, we're actively having the discussion, what can we do to serve somebody who has a different financial comfort zone than another person, getting married at our actual physical venue, because we have this, big open space. And I took that financial comfort zone from Terica, so shout out, girl. I did not make that up. She said she likes to say that, not budget. Yeah, but we're actively trying to think, is there a way we can serve other couples who have a different budget than the couples who want, all of our furniture inventory, our venue, our team, our waterfront view, all of that. Is there somewhere else equally beautiful, because we have this incredible ranch that we can have weddings for people? And is that something that can continue even when we get past this? That's just part of making our businesses more sustainable, because they have more than one thing to offer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and finding other revenue streams, or just being willing to talk to clients about doing different days of the week, whether it's a Thursday wedding or a Friday wedding or a Sunday wedding, to be able to get, I think that's what might happen this fall, is that those Saturdays are going to be pretty booked up. And so if people are postponing or wanting to do their wedding this calendar year, like being flexible on not only the pricing, but the day of the week. And then if you're doing a Friday wedding, you can be a little bit more flexible on your pricing. it's not a premium Saturday or a premium date in your calendar.
Yeah. This has been so helpful and insightful, Heather. I really appreciate you taking the time. As we leave everyone here, what is just one, it doesn't have to be a piece of advice. It could just be a piece of hope or something you want to impart after, being in the industry for 20 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the wedding industry is all about celebrating love and hope and joy. And I think that in this like week, 2 week period, I have just been so inspired by the grit and the tenacity of our vendor partners. Like, I mean, literally, we've been working, you know, all hours of the day through the weekend, all hours of the night to postpone our clients' weddings. And, we have just such a great industry that's so caring and invested in our couples, but also our vendors. I mean, I care so much about our vendor partners and our venues and how this is affecting them. And so I've just been so inspired by everyone coming together in this, community in the world. And I know we're all going to get through this. And I hope that we can take a lesson from this and, be more connected and be more empathetic, on the other side of this, because, if this is teaching us anything, it's just to slow down and be more grateful and, just be together. So that is my 2 cents right now.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Heather, tell everybody where they can connect with you online.
Yeah, we're Calluna Events, and it's CALLUNA.com, and on Instagram and Twitter, Calluna Events as well.
Perfect. Heather Dwight, founder and lead planner of Calluna Events in Colorado. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Kinsey.
Hi, Meryl. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Kinsey. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am good. All things considered, I'm doing good. I'm trying to stay, cautiously optimistic. And I thank you for being here again amidst all of this chaos. I know you have plenty of your own things going on. So I appreciate you coming on to share your 3 best tips for navigating our businesses through an economic downturn.
It's our new reality. Every time I wake up, it's another reality. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. And I'm not trying to be political, but I didn't think the news cycle could become any more 24/7 than it was. But I was wrong because right. COVID-19 has sent everything into a tailspin.
Right. It's just crazy. Yeah. It is. But, at this point, everybody knows that we're experiencing, history in the making. I mean, this is something that has never happened in all my years of business. I mean, we survived the 1993 recession, mm-hmm. the 2001 9/11, 2008 recession when the market crashed. But this is something that is truly history making. I mean, it's just crazy. So we've got to get ready for the new normal. Yes. And, I don't know what it looks like. I just don't know it. I've been racking my brain. And I think that what I can offer your listeners is that we have to be prepared to change how we meet the new expectations of our clients because we don't know what they're going to be. So we have to really think it through is how is business and life going to, I've been thinking about these weddings where we're rescheduling them forward, postponing them, and we keep postponing them later and later and later. I just don't know. I mean, are we going to have a Zoom wedding?
Right. What's the new thing?
Right. You just don't know. So, and I think that what you're doing is talking to other professionals and trying to make some type of sense of this is good. But I think that one of the things that we really have to try and think about is how our consumers will change and how will they be booking our services? Will it be online? Will it be more texting? Will it be more calling? I think that they're going to be so health conscious now about everything. So yes. That's the other thing is to make sure that you are above and beyond. If they come into your offices, it is just really clean. I'm stuttering because I'm still reeling in this, as everybody is.
Absolutely. Well, as we record this, it's March 25th. I am recording these episodes to release March 26th, literally the day after today. So we are still right in the thick of it. It's not like we are looking back with hindsight. We are still in the middle.
We are.
Yeah.
And I think that we're just some of us are trying to save our businesses. Our employees are out of work. I mean, it's just crazy, and you just don't know where to place your attention first. And I think the first thing I think is we've got to turn off the TV.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't hear what's going on in the news, but having it on 24/7 is crazy. And I'm guilty of that. I did that. And I got myself into a major tailspin. So turn off the television, maybe watch it an hour a day just to get, updated. But we need to remove ourselves because we're going to go through a major depression ourselves. And we have to protect our businesses, our employees, ourselves.
Agreed.
Yes. So I think that is a concern of mine. And I know it was for me when I was like, oh my God, I got to turn off this damn TV. It's just crazy.
It's true. It's true. Well, it feels as if as planner or as wedding professionals and event professionals, we are getting bad news from all kinds of directions. Like we watch TV and it's terrible news. And then also that terrible news, which is a new restriction, a new ban or whatever, it impacts our event businesses. And then we have to deliver that terrible news as it relates to events to our clients.
Right. And I want everybody to know that they're not alone in this. This is what's so unique about this situation, as it was different at 9/11 and the market crash, because the market crash, there were so many businesses that were new that were expanding so well because they didn't have the overhead of these other businesses. But now we are all of us are in this together, and our feelings are natural. I mean, we're all facing it. So we need to take this opportunity to remain transparent about our businesses and ask for help when we need it. And, the government is giving us help, the SBA loans, workers, or unemployment. I mean, there are things that we just have to start doing some research and start taking advantage of the things that we are entitled to.
Yeah, I agree. I know. And we've, you've been talking to us these last few minutes, this is so unprecedented. No one's ever been through anything like this before. But, Meryl, you are such a sales strategist and you're so creative. Not only because you have been through quite a few things, but I've seen you, pivot to a new company. I've seen you create new companies. I haven't seen you, but, I know that's true. So I wonder if, even though, again, we don't know what the future holds for us, but I wonder if you could just share like maybe two or three tips for what we could do in our businesses. Like, let's protect our mental health. Definitely we need to be asking for help. What would you tell that person who is saying, I'm going to definitely do these things. I'm going to reach out and figure out what's available to me when it comes to SBA, natural, disaster loans. What else can we do to help our businesses stay maybe not as strong as they were, but what else can we do to make sure our businesses survive in times like this that are unknown and unexpected?
I truly believe that we have to try and think it through how our customers are going to be using and what they're going to be doing in the event industry. And I don't have a magic wand to tell you this. I just know that it is going to change. Like, here's an example. In 2008, when the market crashed, and we were a high-end catering event planning company and a designer. And nobody was paying, high prices for our stuff. So we had to figure out, okay, well, what are our clients going to be doing? Well, they're not having big parties and they're not showing that they're spending a lot of money. I mean, we got that when the corporations just shut down from all events and started canceling everything. And then we said, okay, we have got to restructure and we have got to think about how will events happen now. And at that time, we thought, okay, they are laying everybody off. So there is going to be a time when they're going to want to entertain, not showy, but they want to entertain and bring in their families of their employees and stuff like that. And that's where we started the picnic company. And it was only supposed to be short term for 1 or 2 years, but it worked out so well that was one of the good things that happened during an economic crisis was we have to rethink what we do. Mm-hmm. And I see that a lot with some companies. I mean, they are rebranding and rethinking of what they do in order to help what's happening right now. So yes. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am still shaking about this whole thing. So I don't have the answers. And when Kinsey, when you asked me, I was like, I don't have any answers. I'm right in this with them. It's just that I think that we just have to think it through. We need to step back a little bit and just think, how will events happen in the future? And what are they going to be?
Well, and I think that's such a valuable question. And it's funny how you see that I am shaking. It's funny how how other people perceive us, because listening to you, I feel so comforted by your words, even though you're saying,
even though I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, because I just know, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I personally, feel comforted by your words, because you are, you're just someone who has met so many challenges, and you've been in the industry for, much longer than I have. And I see you as a complete, just a consummate pro. And so I feel extremely comforted in your unknowingness.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
This is the time for our community and just to be together.
Yes.
And I don't have the answers for this situation, but I do know that, and I really truly know that living through this, we will prevail and we will come back. Everybody says we'll come back stronger. I don't know if we're going to come back stronger. I don't know, but we'll come back and we'll still all be able to make a good living. It will come back as every other. I mean, look, all those other pandemics. I mean, the 1968, 1918, they lost 675,000 Americans.
Yes.
Crazy.
That's right. That's right. It's just it's interesting because everyone listening to this podcast, we have never seen anything like this before. It's not the first time it has happened in the world. It's just the first time it is happening to us. Right. And even though, we can look back and say everything is relative, we can look back and say, well, the 1918 flu epidemic, that will never happen again because now we have vaccines and all of that. And of course, our dearest hope now is that in 30, 50, 100 years, someone will look back at our time. This time, as you mentioned, Meryl, we are truly seeing history in the making, and that's true. Mm-hmm. My hope is that someone looks back and says, that coronavirus epidemic, that will never happen again because we've made all of these advancements. So it's not to downplay what's happening to us, but it is to understand. And I think it is helpful to see that throughout history, we've been brought down. The human race has been brought down. Business has been brought down. Economy has been brought down, and we'll rise again. As Meryl is saying, it'll be different. We'll be a little bruised, but we'll come back.
Yes, exactly. Mm. Yeah. And you said that perfectly. I mean, I bet you remember where you were at 8:30 in the morning Eastern time on September 11th, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And people before my time would say, I remember when Kennedy was shot. This is going to be one of those things. It is going to be what happened to the world, not just the United States, not just our state, the world. So we'll get through it. We will.
What I think is an important takeaway from this part of the episode is that especially in the last 2 weeks, as I've been talking to clients, and I've been trying to be very optimistic and forward thinking, not completely, not an idiot and just we're going to be fine tomorrow, but trying to be optimistic, but realistic. But I think this is a really important takeaway is that to listen to what Meryl says about this being a point in history and to truly take it that way. This is, not that we're not all taking this seriously, but I think this would help us plan our business's future better, especially if we are going to go into an economic downturn, which I believe we are. If we take this moment in history, seriously, and we look at it and we really say, this is something we're never going to forget. What am I actually building here?
Right. And we will face an uphill battle throughout this pandemic. I mean, we will. And we'll have to make some tough choices on behalf of our companies and our employees and our families and ourselves. And I think I'll end there is this, yes, we do. We know that we have to make these choices, and we will. And we will prevail.
Yes. Absolutely. What is just one final thing you can leave us with as we go back, we sit down and we ask ourselves the question you posed to us, which is, how will events look? How will our clients look going forward? What's one last tip we can sit down and think through along with those?
I have to give you my first tip. I think that I have to give you my first tip because I don't have any last tips. I'm still trying to think, how will events evolve?
Yes.
And what is going to happen? And I'm trying to think it through of what is our customer going to be like in the future? And this isn't easy. And what I'm doing right now is I'm reading economic things of past pandemics and past recessions and things like that, and seeing how they bounce back and when they bounce back. So I'm trying to go back into history and see that to get a little glimpse of what is in store. So I really don't have any more tips than that, Kinsey. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, don't be sorry. That's what you said is, what does it look like? How will our clients respond? Right. I think that is such a good simulation to put ourselves through. I don't think you could have said it any better than that. I appreciate you so much.
I'm good.
Yeah. Meryl, tell everybody where they can find you online. I know that you're out there helping people through this and training, as always, before this, but tell everyone where they can find you.
And if anybody really wants to call and just vent or talk about anything, I am here. I mean, I've been doing that all week because, talking people off the ledge sometimes.
Yeah.
But, so I am here, and you can contact me as Meryl@merylsnow.com. I'm also doing some free giveaways for books and when we get back to our think tanks and things like that. So follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be giving all this stuff away soon. So that's how you can find me.
Perfect. And you guys, I'll put that in the show notes along with some other helpful things I found on Meryl's website and where she's teaching. Meryl, thank you again for all of your information today. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Jan. And I appreciate what you're doing. I think that's great because we need to have more voices, and you're a good influencer on that. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks again, Meryl. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Terica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm under the circumstances. It's really great to be around your people and your tribe. So thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure and an honor. And I just wanted to thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I know it's a very fast turnaround as we record this. It is literally just the day before this is going live, you guys, on Thursday, March 26th, but we are in a 24/7 news cycle right now with COVID-19 and coronavirus. And so as you heard at the very top of the show, we are continuing with advice on how to run your business through an economic downturn and just inspiration. And Terica has been in business since 2005. She's been through not only the economic downturn and the kind of housing crisis in 2008 and beyond, but through many transitions in her business. And so Terica, quickly, I did read your professional bio there for everyone, but just in about 2 minutes or so, tell us who you are in the industry, just for those of you who don't know you. I'm sure that's very few people.
Oh, I'm pretty sure there's one or two out there that still have active restraining orders on me. So I'm more than happy to share myself. I'm a wedding planner. I'm a wedding designer and an event manager. I started my destination wedding planning firm in coastal Georgia So a majority of my couples come to me to get married. So I am the destination wedding spot as opposed to us going out. Our clients come in. So I've really had to learn how to perfect long distance planning with my clients. So that took me through so many transitions throughout everything. And it helped me learn a lot. It helped me cultivate a lot of relationships as well. And as I started learning and I started sharing, because I'm super passionate about uplifting our industry and really elevating how far we can take this, not just for our clients, but also for ourselves, I then began to move into the realm of being an industry speaker and educator. So you'll see me at some of your favorites like Cater Source and Wedding MBA and, all of those and the local groups too. So I like to say that, I'm just like J-Lo with, in the movie with far less husbands and even far less money, but I know exactly what it takes to go through some really hard times within this industry and still come out on top.
Yes. And that's what we want for you guys. I know I keep saying that this is not about making you nervous. This is not about making you sweat or want to quit your business. This is just about, hey, this could be coming up. Here's how we get through it. Terica, let's go into those top 3 tips you have for wedding pros about how we can work through our businesses, how we can come out on top, how we can come out on the other side, maybe even stronger, right? Is the ideal during an economic downturn.
Absolutely. Well, you professionally are going to have to do what a lot of people are going to have to do personally. You're going to have to cut back. If you don't use it, you don't need it, cut it, really cut your expenses as much as you can. If you can delegate and you can afford to keep, your staff or any assistants, even virtual assistants, then definitely do so. But wherever you are not using something or, you need to scale back, even if it's scaling back from an office space, storage space, or whatever, definitely scale back because you're going to want to start to build a reserve for yourself for any type of investments you might need in the future for your business. So that would be my first and foremost thing. A lot of the times when things are good, we have, a lot of services that we don't use. You have the email newsletter service that you haven't sent a newsletter out in like months, but you keep paying for it over and over again. Definitely go through your expenses and your systems and see what you can afford to cut and what you cannot live without, because that's going to be a huge key factor for your business moving forward. And it's also going to help you learn, exactly what you need to operate and what you need for your workflow and for your magic. What I always mention, what's your magic to take place for your company. So I think that that's super important for step 1. Do I move on to step 2?
I have a quick question about step 1. Can you give us a few examples of things that we might look into cutting back on?
Yeah. So, for example, if you think that you can do without your space for the time being, if you can't see yourself, continuing, at least you may have to cut back on your space. You may have to learn how to work from home. That's a huge choice that you'll have to make, but you have to weigh the pros and cons of what you're saving and, your rent to what it is that you can actually afford and what you're going to be bringing in. Mm-hmm. I can personally tell you, when I went through this in 2008 and 2009, that was when the quote unquote recessionista was born. That was when Pinterest really showed its big boon as well. So you had a lot of people who, the side hustle economy wasn't really a thing, but you had a lot of people who were then entering into the wedding industry, and it was frustrating. And it was also extremely competitive because, I always welcome new people into the industry, but you had a lot of people who I keep it real, Kenzie, they had no business being there. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, I like going to Party City. I have a Michael's 50% off coupon. I am now a wedding planner. I am Mindy Weiss. Look at me. So you had an influx of people who then started, crowding the talent pool. So you're going to have to figure out ways to scale back, because you're going to have an influx of people who are now going to be competing and chasing for the same dollar that you have. And you're going to want to make sure that you have the money that you need to either continue your advertising, to continue, any of your other systems like your CRM. I don't advise getting rid of that. You're definitely going to need that and keep that. Like your HoneyBook, your Tabe, your Dubsado, definitely keep that. think about if you, like I mentioned, if you're using MailChimp or MadMimi or, Flowdesk or whatever it is, if you're not sending things out, then cut it. You know what I mean? You're not using it anyway. Reach out to people individually. Reach out to your leads individually if it's not something that you are using. If you haven't opened up Pandora in the past 3 months, nix it. There are so many things that if you just go through and you're tracking your expenses and you ask yourself, have I used this in the past 30 days? How vital is it to my business? Then, if it's a yes and you have to keep it and it's vital to your workflow, then by all means keep it. But you may have to have some hard conversations with yourself and your wallet and your bank account about what needs to go and what needs to stay.
Thank you. Those are really solid examples. What is your second tip?
So my second tip is how I mentioned the whole recessionista thing, and you had so many people coming in. You're going to have more people who are going to be very focused on their budget. Budget's not a dirty word, although I never say the word budget to my potential clients. I love to say the term your financial comfort zone. So you're going to have a lot of people who don't want to extend themselves beyond their financial comfort zone. So you're going to have to learn how to pivot. Again, you're going to have this influx of people that are coming in and saying, yes, I will plan your wedding for a $5 chicken sandwich from Popeyes. And, I will even make the biscuit. So it's like, you're like, how do I compete with that? I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. I've got an electric bill. I've got a brand that, it won't allow me to discount. You know what I mean? It won't allow me to go that low or to compete or fight dirty to go that route. So what I had to do in that time is I had to pivot. I took what I was known for, which was my beautiful weddings, my romantic weddings, really heartfelt and intimate celebrations, and I just scaled them down. So you could get everything that I am known for one set price. So I started doing all-inclusive weddings. I spoke to my attorney, and we had a master service agreement that allowed me to book out other vendors, and I started selling packaged weddings for a smaller rate and a smaller guest count that still had guests feeling like they had the cocktails and details experience without the price tag that would normally be associated with it for a larger event. So that was me not really diluting or watering down my brand, but just expanding my brand and taking it to another level of the market. So think about how you can pivot and how you can still continue to make money in a new realm where money is going to be an issue without sacrificing your brand.
That is so smart. And is that something that you continued post
Girl,
economic
yes.
downturn? Okay.
Georgia Power ain't tell me that they're giving me any discount. So yes, that thing still goes on to this day. And because it was so popular during that time, throughout the years, as the economy has gotten better, I've been able to nuance it and make it better. So now it's going strong. So I already have something in place for, unfortunately, when something happens again, it's going to be, ready to go.
That's so sustainable. I love that idea. Smart.
Do
you?
Can I say something else about that too?
Yeah.
I want
say whatever you want.
So the way that I got into design as well is that I started small. I started with just designs for sweetheart tables and cake tables. So if you are a planner, a florist, even if you are a photographer and you have, style props, look at going that way. Maybe you could have someone who's going to elope or they're having a small event and they just want one part of their wedding to look special. They want one part of their wedding to look like they didn't skimp on something. Think about what you have and how you can market it, again, without diluting your brand, but you can market it in a way that fulfills a need for people who still want to celebrate, who still want the beautiful things, who still want something very custom and very reflective of their styles, without feeling like you have to give away the bank. So I'm pretty sure that everybody has something in their arsenal right now that they can do. Just pivot and think smaller.
Oh, okay. And then you started small with design, and now, of course, you're a full designer, but you started with those sweetheart tables, cake tables, and then built it out from there.
Yep.
Okay. What's your third tip for us today?
My third tip is don't be afraid to show your magic. What makes you great? This is not the time for you to go dark on social media. You definitely want to be very mindful about the things that you say, very respectful. You don't want to come off as tone deaf, but you actually want to give people a reason to be inspired. You want to give them a reason to say, yes, I really want to celebrate and I want to, go beyond our courthouse wedding or, our backyard wedding. You really want to still provide that inspiration and that motivation, because people are going to need an outlet. They still love pretty things. They still love love. They still want to celebrate. They still want to get together when we can get together. But, for a group of 5 or more, you could really create something inspirational. So again, dig in your arsenal, keep talking to people, keep adding value, keep showing support, keep giving education. Do not stop. Don't go dark, because you might actually be the only light that someone has right now. Right now, we have a lot of clients that are postponing. We have a lot of clients that are canceling. And one thing that I was saying is that, we got to let our clients and even our vendors, we have to let them grieve. We've had clients that have been planning, this wedding their whole lives, and then they've been actively planning for a year. And then now we're so close and it's not going to happen. So now we have these clients who are having weddings pushed back to fall, to winter, and to spring. We still need to keep them engaged. We still need to keep them motivated and let them know this is just a plot twist. That's what we say in our company all the time. We don't say there's a problem. We say there's a plot twist. This is just a plot twist for us right now. But, share things that could keep your audience and your clients, even your leads, motivated. Check in with your leads as well. Be sure to inspire them. Say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I know your wedding was XYZ. Here's a color palette that works really well during that time. Here are some flowers that are in season during that time. Continue to show value and support. You don't want to come off as salesy. That's how you get deleted. That's how you get ignored. But you actually want to become a resource and someone that they can trust, so that it becomes so much easier for them to book you when the time comes.
Oh, so brilliant. Now, this question I did not ask you, but I know you'll have an awesome answer for this because you are a B2B educator as well. I wonder if you could just provide us one quick tip about how we can, if for those of us who are educators as well, what can we do in our education businesses during kind of an economic downturn to keep things rolling, to keep people inspired and making sales?
The same exact thing.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
Girl, go buy a lottery ticket because you knew. The same exact thing because,
yes.
I'll be completely honest with you. I have had 2 calls this week. I just had one earlier today where people are still looking to get a coach, or they're still looking to hire someone. They're like, I've got time. I've got a little bit of money that I could possibly invest. How can you help me? It hasn't stopped because they are looking to us, again, for the inspiration and the motivation. So don't stop. Offer value. You shouldn't be out there, trying to sell, because we do have to be mindful that some people's finances may be really tight right now.
Yes.
But what's not tight is their desire to move past this, their desire to get on the other side of this. So they are going to be sponges and soak everything that we have up, which is why I think that this podcast that you're doing, this episode is actually brilliant, because we need to think 2 steps beyond, oh my gosh, my wedding canceled, my wedding postponed. We have to go beyond what this means for us for the next 18 months, the next, year, whatever. We have to think beyond that. So providing that value and that support is so important. I'm offering free strategy calls until the end of the month. I might even have to extend it because so many people have signed up. But it's just a 20-minute vent session. If you want to vent, you want to cry, you have questions, call me. It is totally fine, because if we don't stick together as a community in this, then the whole industry fails. We have to be on point. We have to stay together because we're all suffering. Being in coastal Georgia, I deal with like the hurricanes that come through every season and they threaten our events. That's something that's just local to us. Nobody else really gets to deal with that. With this, everybody is going through at the same exact time. So we have to be there to support each other, to provide feedback, and to give as much value as possible. Share your insights, share what you're doing, share how we can, how they can reconnect with their clients, share how they can reconnect with their event teams and their vendors. There's so much that we can do. And then you know what else? Share your normalcy. Share what's going on, behind the day. I would love to see somebody yell at their kids in their Instagram stories. So I feel like I am not alone. My kids, I feel like they are just, they are living it up, girl. They are like out collecting gambling debts, and I'm pretty sure selling loose cigarettes. My kids they are a trip.
They're expelled from homeschool. Get out of here.
Right. Oh my God. Well, come to think of it, I'm like, wow, your teacher ain't worth a damn either. So I guess that's where you get it from. Your homeschool teacher, she's horrible. So I totally get it. But share your normalcy, because again, we're all going through. I think that, and I say this when I speak to, when I go to speak, I really want to connect with my audience. I want them to know I go through the same stuff that you go through. I have failures. I have, unhappy clients. I have beautiful weddings. I have not so many beautiful weddings, but I don't think this is the time to really pretend like everything is great and everything is so well when it's honestly not. We really need to feel that connection and that, we're all in this together.
That's a beautiful message. Wow. Thank you so much. Terica, tell everyone where they can find you online, please.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Cocktail Terica. You can also find me online at tericainc.com. That's TERRICA Inc.com.
Thank you so much. And you guys, as always, that will be in the show notes. So you can connect directly with Terica. I know you'll want to after this. Terica, thank you again for sharing with us and providing all of this value on my podcast today. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for doing this. This is so important. So important. So thank you.
You bet. My pleasure. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Megan, welcome back to the show.
Absolutely. My pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I was just telling you, I'm so lucky to know you, and I feel even more so today because as we record this, it is Tuesday, March 24th. This episode is being published in real time on Thursday, March 26th, so we have a very fast turnaround here. But I know you, especially if anyone understands this, it's you of all people because you are the president and founder of OFD Consulting, which is a PR agency in the wedding industry, wedding and event industry, and we are right in the thick of the COVID-19 crisis. And I sent you my idea about this episode and I just said, hey, what do you think about this? Gosh, I know you don't have time, but could you squeeze me in? And I'm so blessed that you said yes. So in this part of the episode, we are talking about PR strategies and PR tips for a recession time.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me. It's so essential that we kind of looked ahead to what's next and what we should be doing.
I agree. And I know I gave you guys this disclaimer at the very top of the episode before we heard from all of these wonderful professionals, but please just remember that today, as I record this, we're not necessarily in a recession. I am not trying to be a fearmonger or a doomsday sayer, but I just want you to know that, it's not unrealistic to think that when the United States shuts down, that an economic downturn of some sort will follow. And that's why I wanted to put this episode out so that you could, again, not feel the fear and hide, but feel prepared and perpetuate your business forward. And Megan is here to help us understand how we can do that via PR, what we can do to manage, kind of our PR dockets and things of that nature.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point right away. It's just the overall is if we start heading into more difficult times, and I know people have heard so many others say this, but I'm going to be here to reiterate first and foremost that now's not the time to cut back on your marketing. It's not the time to start, as you said, kind of stepping away for it. We need to be focusing on other aspects of PR and even the tried and true methods that's working for you. Because the fact of the matter is, no matter where we end up with this economy, right? The statistics show us from Splendid Insights over and over again that couples will find you a handful of ways, the most popular methods. One is through Google, which you and I both know, and I don't call myself an SEO expert in any rate, but I know that links back to your site is something that is a great strategy, that building strategy. And then on top of it, that's number one. And then it's going to be online and offline referrals from happy folks who've worked with you, vendors, what have you, followed by real wedding submissions. And so all of those are tied to PR, whether you're being quoted on brides.com about really anything, getting a link back to your site, whether you're still submitting your real weddings, which I would absolutely encourage you to do. In fact, I'm not here to say go hire a publicist to do it. I'm telling you, don't hire a publicist, just go do it yourself. Take that time to really focus on getting your features out there and then keep your clients, your recently, married folks, as well as your vendors as well, keep them happy by getting those features and getting that exposure out there right now. So we don't want to stop doing it. If anything, we want to keep pushing forward even more.
Yeah, I could not agree more. You and I offline have had this discussion, and I've been talking about this a lot on the podcast and other kind of educational opportunities, thanks to you. And I there's something that makes me nervous when I see people say that they're going to pull back on submissions, pull back on PR, pull back on marketing. They're only going to focus on the clients right now that are impacted by COVID-19. And it really, it really hurts me for them, because all I can think is that, my goodness, if any one of your competitors has a different attitude, you will be irrevocably behind them when we are on the other side of this thing.
Or shall we even say squash like a bug? I mean, let's just go down to it. I really feel like this. It makes me nervous when I see people say, oh, I came out of this fog and I'm behind, and you don't want to do that. And Kinsey, so here's the thing. I was around for the recession last time. I was working in venues and for part of the recession, and then I started OSD. So, and let me say, I was starting in the recession, but let's be clear, I barely had overhead, right? Nice things for my cats. That's about it. I didn't have like a staff, so I could start in the recession. I know Bella had needed an office chair, but what I saw was this. I saw that people, and I don't know if you saw this, Kinsey, like just kind of anecdotally here, but I'm sure your listeners did as well, is so what happens in a recession, or at least the last time, is there are layoffs, and it's awful, right? And you see some people, of course, go back and get a full-time job, and that's wonderful. But we saw an incredible surge of people come to the wedding industry. Why? Well, it's a low barrier for entry. And in some categories, I mean, obviously in a rental company, you need a warehouse with rentals, a venue, you need a venue, but there's other areas where you can just jump right in and say you're a wedding pro, for gosh sakes, like put up a Squarespace website and call it date. That is going to happen again. If we fall into harder times, that is going to happen again. And so what you need to do is stand out, because really, this is very quotable. Let me say, Kinsey, the inspiration shoots were born in the recession. That's what happened. Like the inspiration shoots did not show up before 2009. And then tons of people entered the market, and then no one had weddings yet. Not just the economy. It was just, they were brand new. And so they did all the inspiration shoots and they exploded. And it's because they were submitting. And so I see something like that happening again. So if we can stay in the forefront ahead of time, if we can focus on sending out those events, if we can focus on, I want everyone out there, listen up, there's some homework. I want everyone to be, if they're focused in their local market, which historically most of these guys are going to be, I'm assuming, outside of the destination couples or the people focused on destination, I want them to be the number one expert that the media in their area thinks of when there's wedding related information that needs to be, like features that need to be disseminated, not the real wedding stuff, but the planning articles. And hopefully some of the folks listening, when COVID came, this came to light, and they started articles that they were thinking of them to reach out to, because you have to stay top of mind. You want to grab those links. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're the first person people think of when things turn better again. That's what you want. That's what I want for my clients, and that's what I want for your listeners.
Yes, that is what we want. What are some tactical things we can do to make that happen for us?
Absolutely. Couple things off the top of my head. Now, this is going to sound very elementary, but I have to tell you, it's not only something that worked incredibly well for me when I first got started, but it works for my clients as well. Sometimes it's as easy as doing an introduction email to members of the media that are well-researched, that it's the person in your area most likely to write about wedding and event-related content. Introduce yourself in an easy email. Don't make it cute, make it short but sweet, make it friendly. Start with their name and introduce yourself and say why you're reaching out. My name is Megan Ely. I'm the owner of OFD's Consulting. I'm reaching out because I notice you cover the wedding and event industry in this region, and I just want to introduce myself as an expert. Give them 3 lines about your bio, sending them, with a link to your site, and then let them know. An optional paragraph would be anything you can do to make their lives easier with future articles. Also, I could say something like, I am, in my area, I would say something, if I was pitching in the Richmond area, I would say, yeah, I'm an active member of the Richmond NACE group, so I can connect you with a number of different event professionals. Now these days, if I introduce myself, I would probably say something along the lines of, I am International Vice President of WIPA, like I can introduce you, and then you thank them for the consideration and you move on. That is a very elementary way to get started, and it actually works. And listen, Kinsey, they're not going to always respond to you, and they might say yes, thanks, or just leave it. But we've done it at the national level, and I'm not going to name any names, but there's some well-known outlets that will reply to that email 9 months later and give me 3 stories to work on with 3 hours notice. Like that has legit happened to Ariana, my colleague, and we laugh about it.
Oh my gosh.
So Oh yes, and it was like a Friday afternoon when all y'all, meaning the wedding pros, were like not to be bothered. So, but take the time, get to know your local market to start, and ask yourself, who's in a position to cover the wedding and event industry, get to know your local magazines, find out if they're pay to play, because some of them, of course, they're going to want to make sure that they're highlighting their advertisers, but other ones are a little bit more loosey-goosey, if you will, with those guidelines, and they're open to other experts. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, yes, I am not a member of the media. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but anecdotally speaking, based on my observations, they are short on time. They're short on, sometimes they run short on ideas. It just depends kind of who it is. And then they're also short on really great, reliable resources. So why not plant the seed now that you're available at a moment's notice with that? And, I would also say, if I may put a second point out there too, in terms of, really specific to dealing with a recession or maybe dealing with one, I'm going to encourage people to be a little more flexible about what they're willing to be an expert on. I mean, let me kind of take a step back. You want to be an expert on the things that you know best. I'm not telling you to stretch yourself in a weird way and you get asked something that's like with COVID-19 right now, we have a lawyer who can speak to things, and we're encouraging our clients not to answer insurance and contract related questions unless they feel very comfortable, right? You want to be careful. But what I'm saying is, be more flexible with some of the things in the future, because what's going to happen is we are going to see a turn with the content coming out, and it's going to be more about budget. It's going to be more, which I know is the B word for some people, or like intimate weddings or DIY, the D word, if you will, in our world. And I'm saying, listen, there's going to be a few things that are off brand, and I understand that you may not want to participate in it, but we have to be open to the fact that, you might be a planner and you might be very valued by a couple who hires you, but guess what? They may still do DIY flowers in this next generation, if you will, of people coming up. I mean, that's just what we can't get away from it. We can't avoid it. So the question is, how much are you willing to embrace in terms of some of these, trends in journalistic coverage coming up? So maybe being a little more open-minded than we used to be to some of these kind of more budget-related sort of situation.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I'll tell you, this doesn't have anything to do with PR. Again, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, but I do feel like a bit of an economic downturn is coming. And so in my mind, I have been turning ideas about how we can serve, that plethora of DIY couples who is very likely to show themselves. There's always the DIY couple set.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Splendid Insights, they have amazing data on couples whose budgets are, $15,000 or less. And I mean, that's a DIY bride to me, but they still deserve the wedding that they want and can afford. And how can we serve them? So anyway, not PR related, but still, again, a simulation we can think through. Yeah.
Let me give you a great example, if I may. Please. And again, not PR related, but I just got off the phone with an amazing client, Olita. She's based in California, Southern California, and she's a florist. And obviously right now and she does these luxe events, right? She's a florist, she's an event producer, and times are stressful for all of us. We were just kind of, but she was excited about the new content she'd churn out. So we're working on these amazing Tuesday, Thursday Facebook Lives, where every Tuesday her backyard's full of flowers. She's going to do a Facebook Live on creating something from your backyard for an intimate wedding. Like, what if you and your future spouse, you have to get married at home and you choose that and you're doing something virtually. So she's going to show this, she's going to do DIY concepts, which you may think, what in the world? This is someone who, award winning, but she's embracing it and saying, there's a part of this audience who's going to appreciate this. So I think it's a good example of staying true to yourself, but also being open to the fact that this is where we are trending. So don't be surprised if, the coverage in the next year is going to be more focused on. It's like right now with COVID, it's kind of like, how do you have a virtual wedding? How do you have a wedding for under 10 people? And people scoff at that. I'm like, but that's what they're reading. Why don't you be at the forefront of that and embrace it? Unless it's so offensive to you, I guess. But otherwise, just go for it. Put yourself out there.
Oh, come through. I knew this was going to be a good interview. Yes, I'm just literally nodding my head so hard. I think I gave myself whiplash. Yes, please, be at the forefront. Why are we not serving these people? Also, Alita, shout out to her because that's such a good idea.
It's going to be amazing. We're going to have so
amazing.
much fun with it. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yes, absolute genius. Okay, I know you have covered so many things in just these few 14 minutes we've been together, and I know you guys knew that this is going to be just like a snippet of what you could do, but if you just have like one more little idea that people could take and run with perhaps during this time, I would love that, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say go ahead and join Haro. So Haro is called Help a Reporter Out. It is free and it's a wonderful program. We actually use a paid version of it that we enjoy immensely. And so Haro is essentially what it is long story short, you sign up for free. I think it's helpareporterout.com. And then what you'll get is these emails 3 times a day, Monday through Friday. And what's going to come at you is anywhere between 20 and 100 queries from all over. It assumes everyone's an expert, and it's going to ask you everything, like things that have nothing to do with you, all the way to wedding related, assistance that they need help with. And so what you can do, which I think is frankly brilliant at this point, is you can click on the email, and instead of worrying about who am I pitching and who do I research, literally it's a journalist asking for your insight. So they might say, I have 3 questions, answer them, send them to me. So all you have to do, you can skip all the research, skip all the pitching, skip all the relationship building, and just answer those. Now, I will tell you, set your expectations accordingly. We probably have about a 25% pickup rate, which is really strong, but it's been 11 years of pitching to them. I would say don't expect more than 10% to get picked up, but those 10% could really be killer. I mean, we've created relationships with the New York Times through Martha Stewart. One of them was a Martha Stewart writer who ended up living in my town, and we do play dates with her kid. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen,
You don't. And I love that tip. I just want to share just a quick story that just props this tip up, because do you know that this is well before Megan, I knew you. This was back in 2017 when I was just getting started as a venue owner. I signed up for Haro because I don't even know how I heard about it. I don't know. You guys know that I'm always trolling the internet for stuff. But my first 2 quotes came from She Knows and brides.com because of Haro.
Yes, absolutely. So you'll never know, like it's going to be a point, like our job basically with Haro at this point is, as we meet new people, my hope is I finally get to a point where the writers just write me instead of Haro. Like that's the ultimate goal. I'll be perfectly honest, but there's more people cropping up all the time who use Haro as a journalist, and it has a stellar reputation. I absolutely would go ahead and recommend people stop everything, go do it right now. And if I may add one more shout out, I did find out that Matchology, which is Isle Society, is offering currently at the day of the recording 30 days free for real wedding submissions. We have a lifetime membership with them. Like go do those 2 things. Start submitting, putting yourself out there.
Oh my gosh. I thank you for that. I had no idea. You guys, everything that Megan has mentioned today, I will of course put in the show notes. So please do not hesitate to go to shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com/episode 167. An episode is spelled out, episode 167. So you can get all of these goodies. This has been incredible. This has been an incredible wrap up to a really heavy episode. I know that this topic freaks people out, but I wanted to provide some inspiration and some optimism, and we have done that. Megan Ely, president and founder of OFD Consulting. Where can everybody find you on the internet?
You can find me at ofdconsulting.com, OFD Consulting, anywhere on social. That's where you can find me, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Talk about a consistent brand message. OFD Consulting, everyone.
I took it everywhere 11 years ago.
She took it everywhere. Thank you so much for your time, especially during this where I know you're serving a lot of people. Thank you, Megan.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.